Hi, and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics.
And I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tune.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. Today, we're taking on the pantheon, the body of work, of one of the greats, all-time greats,
Stanley Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're approaching
like Mount Olympus.
Mount Olympus.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest. There are more prolific directors. There are directors who've produced more product more regularly, but Stanley has a large body of work because he just started so young and continued to work up until his death.
Other directors have more films in their filmography, but I remember hearing an interview with Tarantino saying he wanted to have a filmography like Kubrick's, where it's like you don't have any. You might have 13 movies in your filmography, but there's no duds in there.
Yeah, Kubrick was a perfectionist. There's different kinds of creative people, and some are just complete fastidious perfectionists, obsessed, really obsessed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going in any particular order, so why not bring up AI. Which was this project that Kubrick worked on for years, maybe decades.
Yes.
Of preparation. His projects would have these long gestation periods, and so AI was one. He put a ton of work in, and then died before he could start filming it. And then Spielberg kind of came in and revived the project and kind of and did it his way, kind of building on the groundwork that Kubrick had laid.
I read that he used he worked with Kubrick's crew as well, people that were already working on the project too, and he brought them into the fold with his crew as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that movie AI. I love that movie, and you can see things where okay, that feels like a Spielberg.
Yes.
That feels like a Kubrick. So you do kind of squint and try to parse okay, which bits try to see the Kubrick version
within
that.
I heard too that John Williams even for his score did subtle nods to the scores from other Kubrick movies as well too.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out again with that in mind.
I can't. And the AI too. I saw that in the theater with my buddy Matt, and that ending hit me hard. That was an
mommy.
Yeah, we were you know what, we're gonna see AI, and then at the very end, I'm sobbing uncontrollably out of nowhere. I didn't expect myself to be that moved by that.
I like movies that have thorough endings, and that is a very thorough ending. And I also like the idea of not just a movie about the future, but the future of the future, and then a movie about the end of time, what's awaiting us at the end of time. And it is that does feel like something that he certainly approached with 2001, but that AI kind of pushed just how far into the future can you make a movie, the Time Machine. I don't think they did this in the movie, but in the novel, the Time Machine, he goes to the end of time. He goes to where there are no longer anything remotely resembling a human being left on Earth, and this is after he has his little adventure with the Morlocks and the Eloi. He goes way and there's just these weird crab creatures, and Earth is just this burned out husk and stuff. So that's something that always fascinated me.
Me too. Him just going to the end of time really I felt heavy weight on me. I was and
it's the singularity kind of where it reaches a point where mankind kind of lives on as a computer, a simulation inside of a supercomputer.
Yeah. Great performances in that one too. Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, just one of his legendary, there's that, and then The Sixth Sense, and then it kind of cements Haley Joel Osment as this all-time great actor.
He's so good. Jude Law's killer in it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Robin Williams, that was a Spielberg touch. I don't think there was a role for Robin Williams in the Kubrick version.
Kubrick he doesn't bring Williams into the fold in his take.
I guess, like, I mean, we can go in any order we want, but I mean, maybe we could work backwards, at least for now. So, like, you got AI, and then you have Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Kubrick's final film.
Final film. He passed away like a week after he screened his cut of the movie, and that came out. I think I hear like 1999 is like a legendary year in movies.
You got The Matrix. You got Phantom
Menace. And I love that movie. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of his best movies.
Really good. It's a compromised masterpiece because they they did like an edit, like a posthumous edit.
Yeah.
They sort of there was a lot of like fucking in the movie, and they created
like,
these
it's
like
gonna get an X rating.
Yeah, they created these like CGI figures to kind of like block and it's like very
Masked
obvious
party stud.
Yeah.
Is blocking.
So like a compromised masterpiece, but yeah, I love that movie too. And Sidney Pollack gives like a great performance in it too. The recently passed away Sidney Pollack, but yeah, he gives a great performance in there.
Great director, great actor as well, and very dreamlike, and it's a Christmas movie, so like he uses a lot of. I like to luxuriate in his movies, and I can just like sit back and like.
Yeah, get pulled in with the style and the world and the aesthetics. Like that's he approaches his movies like a painter. Like where he's like figuring out the perfect compositions.
The attention to detail, like you can watch it a million times and then just focus on like the background.
Yeah,
like
spot something new. I like thematically how that movie works too, because it's kind of like a Dante's Inferno. Like they go on these. The two main characters go on these sort of dark journeys. Tom Cruise's character and Nicole Kidman's characters. They go on these sort of dark, libidinous journeys, and but like Tom Cruise is external. Like he goes on this like sort of like dangerous adventure in the real world, but then she goes on like an internal adventure. She like has these like detailed dreams and things, and like the dreams. That the dream journey that Nicole Kidman's going on is like almost as dangerous or maybe more dangerous than like the literal like peril that Tom Cruise finds himself in. So I thought that was interesting.
That's amazing point. I'm planning on watching it again. And I'm gonna even like focus on that next time through, and with like the dream-like quality, Kubrick seems to, because I guess he wants total control. So he like recreates whole cloth like set. Like he doesn't sometimes he'll like just rebuild like he rebuilt like Greenwich Village in the movie on at Pinewood Studios, and that added you're like something's kind of off about this, but I can't put my finger on it.
Right? Yeah, like in a dream where it's like it was my grade school, but it wasn't.
And like with the Shining, like it's like a set of the hotel like modeled after the real thing. So it's like there's just something.
Something like Uncanny Valley.
Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary Film Worker?
Yeah. Yes.
You have. Okay.
I think it was. I saw that a couple years ago. I thought it was. It might have been on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it was an assistant. I think he was an actor from Barry Lyndon.
Yeah. Yeah. He played. It was like Kubrick's longtime assistant, who began working for him after Barry Lyndon. Like he was an actor. He played the character Lord Bullington, who has the duel with Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
And he was an actor, young actor, like well on his way to like an acting career. But he was so blown away working with Kubrick, and almost like in a cult of personality way, he became really enthralled with Stanley Kubrick. And he's like, it's so rare that like a true genius comes along. This guy is the real deal. He's a true genius, and I'm gonna drop everything, and I'm going to follow him. Like I am going to be his apprentice or his assistant. Like I want to be close to genius and facilitate genius. So he threw away his acting career to be like Kubrick's assistant. And the impression that I get from this documentary is that like it was almost like a cult situation with Kubrick as the cult leader, and that Kubrick is this like, you know, incredibly obsessed person, and maybe kind of like abusive as well, like psychologically abusive.
I've heard that.
And really like this guy became almost like, you know, like, I mean, he is, when you talk to him, he is really happy about the choices that he made, but you see all the things he sacrificed, and you feel like, you know, Kubrick really like went above and beyond, like sort of taking advantage of this guy. And so it does kind of show like a dark side to this sort of like genius, where it's like you're so consumed by the work that you kind of, you know, have like a disregard for like the real people
that are around you. You're just like tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm. But this guy, like, they go down the, and I don't remember his name, I'm sorry, but he, like, they go down the list of all the things he did, and he was the one who was responsible for finding the boy who was in The Shining. He cast him. He was the one who cast Army in Full Metal Jacket. Yes. So like when you go down the, and he did all this work. He would do like script writing work. Like he would spend time with like the actors and like come up with these like, so like he really was like, you know, that sort of second half of Kubrick's career. It feels like it almost wouldn't have been possible without this guy, but he's just completely like if it wasn't for this documentary, he would have been completely left in the shadows.
I'm glad they did it. I remember really like being like appreciating the documentary and being excited today, because like we would never have heard about his impact.
And I really liked him in Barry Lyndon too. Like I think Lord Bullington is a pretty great character.
I love Barry Lyndon, and I will like. I can never. It's like 3 hours plus. I have it, and like I throw it on like the background. It's like, oh, there's guys marching again, and it's like, oh, there's a duel again, or like
it is
like the candles, like a lot of candles,
a lot of candlelight. Yeah, it moves at like a different pace, but it is compelling.
I love it.
It is exciting, and there's tension, and it's beautiful, and you do get a sense of like this other era that you don't really think about very much. And it kind of brings it to life, and there's like a stagey quality to it, but then there's like this very real quality kind of behind it, kind of like presages some of the stuff that goes on in Eyes Wide Shut, where it's like people like in these very like composed, like poised, like artificial, kind of like pretentious situations, but then that being kind of like a framework that sort of props up a lot of this sort of like. This sort of like, you know, like lust and you know, very like, you know, human kind of like, you know, greed and anger and, you know, like it's a really
I love it.
Tension.
And Ryan O'Neal, great performance.
Yeah, Ryan O'Neal, like, yeah, he's great in that. He underplays it. Like, I think Ryan O'Neal's like perfect in it. Like I was talking to my mom who like, you know, like our parents' generation have a different perspective on these things.
My mom has Love Story. I think he's in that. She owns like a copy of that.
Yeah, they have it like, because like, I think for like my parents, like a Stanley Kubrick movie was like an event. Because like, my dad like loved 2001. That was like, you know, great, and he loved Doctor Strange. You know, so like, you know, he sort of followed that Stanley Kubrick. I talked to my mom about Barry Lyndon, and she was like, yeah, everything was great in that movie except for Ryan O'Neal. He was like a lightweight. Like, I guess maybe to my mom, he felt too much like of his time. Yeah. You know, maybe because of like Love Story and stuff. Like, maybe he felt very 70s. But to me, it was like, you know, great.
I love his Kubrick's attention to detail, and like every time I watch it, I'm like, this is what it looked like during that time period. I gotta believe it.
Well, yeah, that was like the famous thing with that movie was that he would Kubrick would take like these like paintings, and then he would try to like these like paintings from that era, and they would try and like recreate like the paint in the shot, like recreate the painting exactly in the shot. So you would get these kind of like posed sort of like setups, you know.
And he's so much attention to detail, because I'm always like. I'm trying to see if a 70s haircut slips into the movie or anything like, you know, in Star Wars, it's like the future, but hey, Luke, you got those puffs over yours. And I don't see any in Barry Lyndon.
It's really fun with like Star Wars, where like it's this very like austere aesthetic. It's very like Lucas talks about how he deliberately left fashion out of that first trilogy, like, and try to make like very classic, very timeless looks. And so you do get that. Like he's very successful in that in Star Wars. And then you see like the photos of like what's happening just off stage.
I know.
And it's like plaid and platform shoes and rugs that are like crazy colors and stuff. And so it is funny how like
that.
it must have been like a real act of discipline to like keep the 70s out of as well as he did.
I think about that all the time. Like it's you're making a movie at a time period. It's like, can we successfully keep, like, if you're making it during early or 2000s, like, can we keep frosted spiky tips out of this movie?
Right, yeah, and not very successful. Like you look at what's that, The Fifth Element or something. They were not successful in keeping the late 90s, early 2000s out of that. Especially like an era like the 70s, and you're doing science fiction in the 70s. Like it must have been like this Herculean effort to not have like a disco ball in it or something.
Here come the Jawas. They're all wearing orange, green plaid, like smocks,
metallic, overalls or something.
Obi-Wan's like, Luke, step into my hut. And there's like orange shag carpeting.
There isn't Star Wars without 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like especially the special effects. Like you see a direct line from.
Absolutely, and like I think Kubrick won an Academy Award for his special effects for 2001. And just watching it again recently, it still holds up, and it looks it's so gorgeous. I'm still like blown away by it.
Yeah, that's probably the Kubrick movie I watched the most. It's 2001. It's another one of those things of like, you don't need a plot to make a great movie.
I'm into it, and I like vibe movies, and like there's still stuff, beats happening, but it's like I like to like sit back and just enjoy just let it like wash over me.
Yeah, like because there is a plot, but it's so like below the surface and kind of like incidental and kind of like just what's it called, like it's like holistic.
Yes.
Like
I vibe out on like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Dazed and Confused. I like Paul Thomas Anderson's. I love his Inherent Vice. Just like movies that creep into the 2.5 hour range, 3 hours, like, and you're just vibing.
Like 2001, it's like, so much of it, like reality hasn't caught up with that, but then some of it, like, he makes like a video phone call, and like we've had video calls since like the 90s, I guess, using some version of like Skype or whatever, and so it is fun. Like he was pretty close, like the way he envisioned how a video call would go is pretty close, like
pretty close,
especially like the idea of like a kid on a video call, because like the way she talks to her dad does seem pretty true to life. There's a couple little details that like the dad is like very formal in his call, which is not the case now. Like they're a lot
more informal. And like I like also the camera. It looked like the camera is like at the top of the screen, and like that's where the cameras seem to be placed. Like,
it's like well thought out.
For the space station, I guess for artificial gravity, having like the living quarters being in like a sphere that's like rotating to pull you to like that seems like how it would need to get done.
That is like the excruciating amount of time he spends on a project.
When they're on that one station, there's like the Hilton office.
They have the Hilton there, and there's like a Howard Johnson's or something. Yeah.
And then that Hilton office, it's in the background, but that's fully like decked out to like the nines, and then we're just seeing a little bit, but like
you could almost picture like a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Yes.
And again, it's like Barry Lyndon and like Eyes Wide Shut, where like that in that scene on the space station, he's having this like very polite kind of like it's polite and collegial and friendly and jokey conversation, but then there's also like all these things that are being unsaid in that scene, and like this gamesmanship and tension.
I know De Palma doesn't like to shoot coverage. Like, he kind of knows what he wants, and he'll like just shoot. He's gonna shoot. He has everything mapped out. He's gonna shoot what he's gonna shoot, and not he's not gonna have a lot of stuff to work with in the editing room. Where I heard Kubrick does, he's shooting a ton of coverage to have a lot of material. When he brings it back to edit, he can like pick and choose. Why give an actor 100 takes? Like, you might wouldn't that tire the actor out, or like?
Well, he does seem like he's cut from the same cloth as like Hitchcock, where he like kind of like tortures, again playing into this sort of like cult leader and maybe this like darker side of Kubrick, where it is kind of like this power play and like deliberately torturing his actors.
Yeah, because I heard that he drove Shelley Duvall like crazy during The Shining, like making her do so many takes, and I guess maybe he wants to see the actor like after take 50. It's like, well, I want you to give this performance exhausted or like beat down.
Well, it's kind of like this show that we're like the Total Recall show, where we're gonna pull back the curtain for a minute, but it's kind of like sometimes we'll do a couple of episodes in one night, and so it's kind of like the last episode. We are like done.
We're punchy,
and something magical kind of happens when it comes out of it. So maybe it's a little of that. The Shining came out in like 1980, or was like filmed in 1980, 1979, and I was very little at that time, and like The Shining feels like my childhood. Now that's like an odd thing to say about this horror movie where like dad tries to kill everybody, but it's like just the look of it and the details. And Kubrick went great lengths to make it from like a child's point of view. So it's like at a time when I was little, he's making this movie where he's working really hard to reproduce like of that specific era, like what it's like to be a kid. So like the low shots, and then the big wheel that the kids riding through, like and the sound of like the big wheel on the hard floor, and then the carpet. Like these are all important to him, and like that's what big wheels looked like when I was a kid, and that's what a mom and a dad looked like when I was like the clothes and the haircuts and the fact like my mom, when I was that age, when that movie came out, looked like Shelley Duvall, and my dad looked like Jack Nicholson, and the same clothes and the same attitudes and stuff like. And I think in trying to, like, and it's part of it's Stephen King too, but Kubrick, like, it's like, okay, it's 1980, and I'm trying to show what it's like to be a kid when I'm a kid too, and then also trying to show like how you feel as a kid when like you hear your parents fight or something, and how terrifying that is to you, and you think like everybody's gonna die or something, and so like taking that sort of like fear and the emotion that a child feels, and then like making it literal.
That's such a good point. Like, so many low shots, like the camera's like creeping down at kid level. My mom was a Stephen King fan and turned me on to The Shining. I remember it was on, she's like, what's The Shining? Yeah. But I'm little, like, and one of the scariest moments I've ever seen is at the end when Jack Nicholson's, like, I don't know, now I watch it, I'm like, oh, you're gonna see his frozen corpse, everything's okay. But seeing, like, the snap cut to him frozen scared the shit out of me when I was little.
Reproducing this feeling of childhood, and, like, not knowing what's real and what's not, and feeling like not having a clear idea of like where magic, what's magic, and that like maybe you can like share thoughts with people, or maybe, or like maybe your imaginary friend is something sinister, or like all these little things, like really just a brilliant piece of work. Like that's one I return to a lot. And again, like it's like scary and disturbing, but it's also kind of like warm and nostalgic for me. It is warm and nostalgic.
Like Jack Nicholson's like jeans and red jacket, like
his like sweater and so, and like it like he reminds me of my dad so much, and my dad's name is also Jack, but it's like he's got the smile, he's like all charms, and then sometimes he's like just like real morose and tired and like done, just like having none of it.
I think Jack Nicholson's look and vibe in The Shining is like the quintessential Jack.
Yes, yeah.
Like that's the Jack that I hold in my mind.
Yeah, just like that job interview that he has at the beginning. He's like got the humor and the charm, and he's
Yeah.
like, and it is kind of like the face that like your dad presents to the world when he's out in the world. It's like kind of like a little bit political, kind of like hey, I'm gonna charm you, at the office or whatever, and then you get home, and then that's when it's like,
He's like, I swear I'm not gonna fall off the wagon.
Sounds good to me.
Why do you think Stanley always would go with like the long? Because I love them, the long shots.
The long shot.
What is it about the long shots that like?
I mean, they just
are great.
I mean, they just kind of feel like. I mean, he loves symmetry, and like his movies are like architectural. It's not focused on the it's kind of like it's focused on like the space, and then the actors are just acting in it. But I don't know. It's just like it's meditative. Like it kind of creates like a comfort, or like a feeling of safety, and then you can kind of like play with that and throw it off. And
I like the zooms, like the
Yeah.
zoom to pull out, like slow, like pull out.
the classical music, and
Yeah, he does. He puts a lot of thought into his like music choices, like the
well, Clockwork Orange is like a good example of like music. Yeah.
Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm.
Full Metal Jacket. They're singing like was the Mickey
Mouse theme. Yeah. Full Metal Jacket's a good, like that's another one I watched a million times because like, and it's like the movie's like split in two halves, which is another like, Kubrick would do. He was interesting with structure. He would make interesting choices with structure,
like intermissions.
Yeah, taking full advantage of the intermission, and of course like Tarantino being like a student of Kubrick, when he he's kind of brought the intermission back, but so like that was like two movies basically, and like I would watch the boot camp sequence over and over again. I haven't seen the second half nearly as many times because like just the Arlie Army, like the way he would roast those guys, it was like, it was like scary and hysterical at the same time. Yeah.
It's like with Dennis Farina in Michael Mann movies, like we're gonna bring in this. We got a guy coming to set. He's a cop, and he's gonna tell us what it's like being the cop. And Dennis Farina shows up, and he's like, "All right, guys, this is how we do it on the force." And I'm like, "Holy shit! The guy we brought in, we need to get this guy in the film." And it's like Army, they bring in like
because Army was like brought in as like a consultant at first, and then it's like, no, this is the guy.
And they hired a guy, and I think they booted.
Yeah, they fired the actor that was gonna play that role. Yeah.
They're like, "Jeez, look at this guy.
Yeah.
Where did this guy come from?"
Yeah, I mean, a star is born right there. Yeah.
Vincent D'onofrio.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I love like going through his filmography too. Because like he is amazing, and there's like a movie that I think didn't get a ton of play, but he's in a movie. I forget the name of it, but where he plays Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan the Barbarian.
I don't know.
And Renee Zellweger is in it too. Like you got to check that one.
I'm definitely.
But yeah,
check that out.
and it's really cool that he, kind of got his due. Like he was kind of this, under the radar kind of actor for a while, and I think like around the time that he played Kingpin and Daredevil, he kind of got his moment in the sun and has kind of he's become A-list since then.
We loved Vincent D'onofrio here. Talk about like a juicy role. It's like your arc descent into like. You start in one place and like end up somewhere else.
What a great fake out too, because you've seen like this is like you've had movies like Stripes or Officer and a Gentleman. You've had like the comedy version, the drama version of this story again and again, where like there's a guy, he's the screw up, and then by the end he becomes like the perfect soldier, and it's like he goes through that whole arc, and then spoiler
alert, he meets he has a gruesome demise.
Yes, and like it takes a strong like left turn. Like Kubrick again, like one of the early, one of the early adopters of like the sort of like left turn, like knowing that you've seen a million movies, you know where these stories are going, even if you're not consciously aware of it. A part of you knows where this story is going. So if you take someone on that journey and then take a big left turn, like it is jarring.
The Killing,
another great one. Yeah.
My buddy Dan had been recommending that to me for forever. I finally got around to watching it. And like, that's in '56 or whenever that came out. Talk about like, a left turn in that movie that your audience probably hadn't seen before like that.
Yeah.
Like, that still caught me.
Yeah, it is. It's like this rollicking movie, twists and turns. So much fun.
Yeah.
And you do see like Tarantino.
He definitely. I feel like Tarantino definitely had his eyes on that.
Yeah, there's like it just feels like he must have been like drawing from that big time for a lot for like Jackie Brown for
Yes.
for Reservoir Dogs, for Pulp Fiction. Like it feels like he's like because it's got that 50s. There was kind of this like brief 50s revival in the 90s and like Hey Doll Baby and like that kind of like Swingers and stuff.
There's movies from like the 50s where it's the actors are starting to act more like they're losing that like mid-Atlantic like theater like delivery, and they're going more natural.
Yeah.
So like there's some actors in The Killing that you could just like pull them out and drop them into like a Tarantino movie and they wouldn't sound out of place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like William H. Macy types.
Yeah.
in that movie.
And Sterling Hayden, I forget how great he is. Kills it. Like what a look. Huge. He's a stud. He's a big guy. Like I like his delivery. And but yeah, you'll still get some of the like Cary Grant type delivery. But
yeah, right. Yeah, that mid, like you said, the mid-Atlantic accent, and then there's definite symmetry in that. Like there's like these two federal agents who are look like twins. Like you might have even cast twins walking through these two glass revolving doors or whatever at the same time.
I love that.
Sort of like impending doom, inevitable, like the inevitable.
Was The Killing the first instance of a gun being transported in a flower box? Before Arnold pulls his like shotgun on T2.
Yeah. That's a good catch there. Like I mean I don't know the answer, but there's something like the way he does like twins in Kubrick's like in The Shining and stuff. Like definitely it's like when you see two of something. They're like you're supposed to like pay attention. Something's got, but I don't know what the like I don't know what that's supposed to be or why he chose that. But brilliant choice. This idea of like twins.
His mask in The Killing.
Great man. Yeah, just oh man, what a great every detail of that movie so great. And it does like it's it's like still early in his career, so it doesn't feel like hey I'm Stanley Kubrick, I'm the master, and I'm doing my master thing. Like he's doing a genre thing, but doing it like so well and I could imagine that movie almost like getting lost in the shuffle too, of just being kind of grouped with like I don't know like film noir or like crime or whatever. But it is a cut above.
Tarantino, his career like kind of is like a Kubrick kind of where he's like, and they're both vibing on like this is gonna be my horror movie. This is gonna be my like they're like and they're deliberately like
maybe being very self-conscious.
Yeah.
And being self-conscious can be very dangerous. It can be very detrimental to your career. There's a certain amount of looseness you need to have. So that is kind of, it's a dangerous game to play, to be a perfectionist. Because you might end up, not creating anything, or you might end up having a small number of movies that are crappy anyway.
Oh, no.
In spite of the perfectionism. Like, you get in your own way. So, but I feel like both of them have, pulled it off. Like
they have.
It's like Spartacus.
Oh, yeah. The, one of two Kirk Douglas times that Kubrick worked with Kirk Douglas, Paths of Glory and Spartacus. Like what a that's an epic.
Yeah, Spartacus. I mean, yeah, and it's like that the sword and sandals genre, which was kind of like adjacent to like the biblical epic too. Like it's like it's not specific. It's not like the Ten Commandments or like the King of Kings or something. Like but it's sort of adjacent. It's like the era, and there are like comparisons, like Spartacus gets crucified and things.
He's such a perfectionist that like it doesn't matter who the big star is at the time. Like I heard he like had a conflict on the set because for like the first like 40 minutes he's Kirk Douglas was like, you cut all my dialogue out. And he's like, yeah. And I don't know how old he was, but like at that time, but he's in his 20s and he's like taking charge and like commanding like from Jump Street.
Again, the kind of stuff that like that maybe like only a sociopath would do.
Yes,
You know?
like that's what I mean. Like I'm like, no normal person would do that. Like you're like, who is this lunatic?
Yeah, right.
This, like,
only the greatest genius of his era.
I have a small filmography. It's like, dude, they're all steaming terms.
And like that sword and sandals genre is like a genre that has not aged well. Like there's not a lot of classics that like people are still watching to this day. Like The Killing, like the sort of crime movie, and especially like this kind of like rollicking crime movie with like everybody's angling and double crosses, and you're not sure who's double crossing who. Like that is a genre that has aged very well. People still watch those movies from that era. The sword and sandals, not so much. And he created like one of the classics in that genre. Like he created one that like people do still watch, that they do still go back to.
He seems to always be able to handle a large amount of extras. Like
yeah, I think of some of the shots, like it's like exciting, but in like a very unconventional way. It's not close-ups. There's this scene where it's like you have the legions of Rome assembled, and you see them from it, like you're like on top of it. The camera's on top of a mountain looking down at this endless field of soldiers, and they are so distant that you can't make out individual people. You just see shapes, of like shields, and it's almost like a halftime show or something where like the marching band is like flipping up cards that are different colors and things. And they're like moving into these different formations, and they make these like different like geometrical shapes of like the lines. You're just watching, and like that's all you're hearing is like the stomping of like feet of like from a distance, and you're almost like hypnotized by it. It's like you're mesmerized by it, and then Spartacus like raises his sword or gives the yell or whatever, and then like his little army, they like roll a bunch of like flaming logs or something like that, like down the hill, and then just like like knocks down the legions of Rome, like almost like bowling pins or whatever. Like it's just amazing.
It's amazing, and same with like Barry Lyndon too. Like as the camera's pulling out, I'm like, oh man, how did you compose this? Like there's so many extras. They're all clearly put in a specific spot. Did you have to like go through and like physically be like, okay, you're gonna stay like how do you block something like that?
Yeah,
like,
for like that formation in Spartacus, it's like he must have been on top of that mountain with like a bullhorn or maybe a walkie-talkie or something, and like okay, it's the same like feeling I get when I watch like an OK Go video. Or
yeah,
it's like
how
did they
how did they pull that off? Mm-hmm. Like some battle scenes in Paths of Glory, like they would be like give somebody like a quadrant. It's like when you get to this spot, you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how you do it or where you do it, like you'll die here. Like,
you think like those battle scenes in like the Lord of the Rings series where like they're using like computer simulations and artificial intelligence to like get like each individual character to have their like little sort of like do their thing at like their particular moment, and like Kubrick's doing analog. Yeah.
It's just also satisfying to know that like they're when you're making the movie, I feel exhausted by his like preparation for it. He's like, I became an expert on Napoleon or something, and I'm like I would have tapped out after like the first week of like preparation for them.
I mean, it's probably this like obsessive energy, this like manic energy, and then maybe like between like maybe the reason why the projects are so spaced out, it's like he just needs to like sleep for a year, before he can like ramp up that level of energy again.
The Eyes Wide Shut apparently is like holds the record for the longest movie shoot of all time.
Okay.
400 days.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if you're an actor, you're like, let's get those SAG checks, baby. There's somebody's like, I'm getting $25,000 a week, SAG rate.
How does he get these projects financed? Like, how does he find somebody who's like patient enough to like bankroll something? I guess it's also kind of like Orson Welles or something, how he would, he'd like sell something to like, the Shah of Iran or something. Like he'd just find all these like weird places to get his funding.
These all like weird like funding stories like you mentioned, and I swear we always talk about some dentist somewhere.
Right, yeah.
I think there was a dentist somewhere
Dentist
along
involved in these. Yeah, yeah. I think of like the dentist being associated with like the generation after Kubrick, like that film school generation. But yeah,
or somebody
in Orson Welles' case, he would like, get this project together, get some like weird sources of funding, and then start film. And then when like the money runs out or whatever, it's like, okay, that project's done. We're not gonna finish. And then he'd go start something else. It's like, oh, fresh start. Oh, this is something different, and get a whole other set of people to finance it.
Yeah, we'll do this movie. We're like, you got to make sure that you have get some kind of like A-list star or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got Ryan O'Neal was what made that happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure financially, he was one of those guys like a Tarantino where like everybody wants to work with him. It's like, oh, I want to be so like. You would attract like a star like Ryan O'Neal at like the height of his fame.
Stanley Kubrick died when he was 70. Wonder what other masterpiece we might have had.
He probably had a couple more
in
him. Yeah. If Stanley Kubrick were still alive, he'd be doing something on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
maybe like a mini, because like, he would be great to like his works would sprawl. So to sprawl into like the 14-hour movie or something, like some kind of series or something where it's like all one story.
I heard that Spielberg was trying to like do the Napoleon project that he
abandoned
in like a mini series.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember finding that script somewhere online at some point, and then I read like 2 pages, and then it was like a 3-hour movie. So I was like, I'm like, I don't want to get wrapped up. I think that was like Jack Nicholson or Pacino was attached to star in it. It's always like those cases where you're working on a movie and then something similar comes out and bombs.
Yeah. And
then they're like, this is definitely not going to work.
In Get Shorty, the like big epic that Danny DeVito's character was like Napoleon. So I wonder if it was like a take on the Kubrick one, a reference to because it was like this huge hit Napoleon movie starring Danny DeVito's character, so
that's awesome.
I wonder if it was a nod to that.
There was another movie, it was like One-Eyed Jacks or something, and it's like a secret it's a Brando directed it, but it was like a secret Kubrick movie where he like prepped it and basically like got it going, ready to go, and then like he had a conflict with Brando, and then he left the project and Brando directed it. Okay. And he's like, yeah, this is it sounds like a classic Brando.
So it's like AI, except not posthumous, but the same kind of thing. Somebody else picks up where you left off, or like some of the conspiracy theories or whatever about Courtney Love's album, that it's all these like lost Kurt Cobain songs.
Yeah, whole Live Through This is supposed to be written by Kurt, and then Celebrity Skin was supposed to be written by Billy Corgan.
Courtney Love allegedly taking old Kurt Cobain songs and putting her name on them. That's a conspiracy theory. We don't know that that's true.
Yeah, we're most likely
most likely not true. But it's out. The idea is out there. We did not. This is not something we invented. This notion.
Brando's like butted heads with them, and then Kubrick dipped. But all the prep work, all the location scouting, all like the actors being hired, it's like hit, and then Brando took over. Like
a Brando movie that I checked out for the first time that I didn't even realize was a Brando movie was Guys and Dolls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like Guys and Dolls, I largely knew from the Simpsons episode where like Mark Hamill is playing in Guys and Dolls and he's wearing his Luke Skywalker outfit and he's got his lightsaber and they like all the songs have been like Luke be a Jedi tonight and Guys and Dolls we're just a bunch of crazy guys and dolls. Like that's how I knew about Guys and Dolls. And then I had read like some Damon Runyon short stories, things like that. But then like I'm always up for a musical. I checked out Guys and Dolls and it's like, whoa, Marlon Brando is the lead in this like musical, and it was like wow, and he was really good in it too. And it's kind of surprising, like, because like you think of Luck Be a Lady Tonight, like it's a Sinatra song, and Sinatra's in the movie, but Sinatra plays like a smaller character. Brando's the lead character, and Brando sings "Luck Be a Lady Tonight," like not Sinatra. Yeah, he sings
of course.
it. You know.
Sinatra comes up. He's like, "Okay, what are we what?" And he's like,
yeah, and you can imagine like Sinatra's in this movie. You know, it's got this song, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm recording my album, and I'm doing that. I'm going to show you how that song should have been done." I assume he like auditioned for that. I think it's like his name's like King Masters or Sky King or Sky Masters or Sky like it. You know, and I realized like Jack Kirby used Brando's performance in there as a model for like a couple different characters. Like it really made sense once I saw it, and that's like totally like a Kirby name. You know. King Masters, I think, was his name. He did the lighting for a scene in The Spy Who Loves Me.
yeah.
Wow.
He lit. They're in. It's like an interior that the whole. Anytime that we're in when you're in the movie in like the interior of the tanker, a tanker scene, like Kubrick lit it. He like snuck in as a favor and at night and set up all the lighting in it.
Well, I'll have to watch it, and it'll be interesting to see if those scenes like really stand out. Like I love those kind of. I love like Steven Spielberg directing like a couple scenes in like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And
Tarantino
with like
Sin
City. Yeah, and so that like sort of submarine or whatever that shot that Kubrick lit for The Spy Who Loved Me. It looks like the hotel in The Shining.
Isn't it unbelievable?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Like what? Talk about like what?
Yeah, I think about like Doctor Strangelove and stuff. Like I've sort of like cribbed Kubrick in some of my like comics work and stuff because like I did like that scene where it's like where it's like the big round table and everybody's all meeting and they got the light from like sort of like control room kind of.
There's no fighting in the war room.
The war room, yeah, the war room scenes. Like I've referenced that for different comics where it's like if I need like a war room or something, like I've referenced that, and then in GoBots I have like a Barry Lyndon quote in GoBots, and so it's like I do and Godland. There's a lot of like Kubrick like 2001 references and stuff. So. Like he is sort of this like guiding light, in my work.
Well, isn't there the thing with him like he did like they're like he shot the moon landing or something like that?
Yeah, like that. I spent an afternoon, kind of exploring the Stanley Kubrick shot the moon landing because you watch 2001 and it looks so real and the special effects and then the moon landing looks so phony and it looks so cheap and but it's one of those things where. Whatever credibility the conspiracy theory might have had is totally blown because it's like the evidence is so poorly done because I watched some of these videos because I had heard that theory and let me check this let me see what's up with this and I'm watching it and then it's like these interviews with Kubrick and he's like yeah I did it I did that and I set this up and it's like, interesting. And then, as it goes on, you realize, there's never a specific reference to anything. So he never says, oh, yeah, I faked the moon landing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's it's obviously him talking about some movie he did or whatever, but it's like such BS. I could see how somebody would fall for this, but it's come on, people.
It's the Total Recall show out of context.
Yes. Yeah, it's like... So Bullock's on that theory. Yeah.
Another director that I like, Peter Hyams, did Capricorn 1, the movie,
right? Yeah.
Which is basically the conspiracy, like the Kubrick moon landing conspiracy theory in movie form.
Yeah, as a thriller with O.J. Simpson.
Who wasn't cast as James Cameron didn't cast. He was originally cast as the Terminator, but nobody would be able to believe that he was capable of murder. Killer.
Yeah, everybody loves the juice.
The juice.
Nobody would buy him as the heavy.
The heavy.
Now, Capricorn 1, isn't it like they fake a Mars landing?
Yeah, I couldn't remember what trip they did, but I love Peter Hyams, and it's got Sam Waterston and good thriller, like a real solid. But it's like these astronauts.
they like fake a moon landing, and then now like whoever created that scheme is now like trying to make sure the story doesn't get exposed. So like each one of those astronauts are dying mysteriously.
Yeah, because they were supposed to go up in this ship to the the planet or whatever, and the ship blows up. So they're back at the base, and they're supposed to be dead in the explosion.
It's like, what happens to us now? Hey, is there something they're not telling us? Yeah. Stanley Kubrick's style icon, like personal style icon, had that like Rick Rubin look, I guess.
Yeah, he's like so caught up in my work that
let the
beard go. Yeah. Rubin, he's like, oh, man, he gets paid like millions of dollars. He like lays on a couch in the studio.
Dr. Strangelove, I never I understand that it's great. I never it never hit me. I guess because it's comedy, and it's like the fifth. Like comedy's like a weird thing, because it's supposed to be like so. It just like it never struck me as like funny. Like it just wasn't. It never did it for me. Like Dr. Strangelove.
I when I was little, I would call it Dr. Strange Glove.
Because he had the gloves. Yeah, that was a part of it. Yeah, and it had where he's like fighting his hand from going up. Yeah, it's Peter Sellers. He's great in that. He's great in Lolita.
Sellers, love him in the Pink Panther movies.
Yes.
And being there.
Yeah. The Pink Panther was like the gate, Peter Sellers' gateway, because the Pink Panther, like they would run those on TV all the time, and especially like the later Peter Sellers Pink Panthers, where like the formula is just like worn thin. Like I think it wasn't until I was an adult that I saw like the Pink Panther, like the first movie, where he's got like sort of a minor role, but an unforgettable role, and then after that he becomes like the star, and it becomes increasingly cartoony, and just like the James Bond series that it kind of mirrored. It becomes increasingly cartoony, and there's like these tropes that are repeated, but I like grew up on those like really outrageous like bad ones.
Mine was bizarrely backwards. Like the Pink Panther, like the cartoon character, I first saw him on like Insulation.
Okay. He was Pink Panther Insulation. Don't touch that Insulation.
I know,
either.
It's like
it looks so inviting. It looks like cotton candy.
You just want to eat it.
And the Pink Panther's bad idea putting the Pink Panther on the product.
Yeah, it's like how they got rid of Joe Camel.
Right. Yeah. How did the Pink Panther slide under the radar all those years? On this incredibly dangerous product that you want to keep far from your children. It looks delicious. It looks delicious.
And it's a 1-to-1 cotton candy.
It's got a cartoon character on it. Yeah, bad news.
I want to eat it as an adult, actually.
Yeah. That would be a good idea to like package cotton candy with the Pink Panther on it.
Yeah, it's like...
because Pink Panther is like an interesting thing where it's like starts out as just like the credit sequence for a movie, and then the credit sequence is so popular, and the song, of course, by Henry Mancini, so popular that it becomes its own cartoon. Yeah, it's like somehow that credit sequence works its way to Insulation. Like, I forget, like the Pink Panther's like the diamond itself, right? Yeah, the Pink Panther is the diamond that everybody's like looking for in the first movie, and then I don't know if the Pink Panther diamond shows up again in later movies, but like that's kind of like forgotten, and Clouseau is like, the sort of bumbling fool that's, in it, and then becomes the star of this thing. And it was like a long time between watching the Pink Panther movies and then checking out like the rest of what Peter Sellers did and really understanding his genius. And Peter Sellers' Muppet Show episode. I've never seen. You got to see his Muppet Show episode. It's, like, it's not necessarily funny, but you can't take your eyes off of him. Like he's playing all these great characters. I can't wait. I'm gonna check that out. Isn't that like his lighting in that looks so good? Yeah. It looks like it doesn't look like you're lighting something for a movie. It looks like you're just like lighting something for life. To be like a functional space. It like you imagine like, oh wait, so they did all that, and then they tore that thing down when as soon as the
know.
thing was over. Like somebody should like live there.
But he lit that set.
I wonder if Kubrick, you know, it's kind of like Spielberg or something, where like wanted to do like that James Bond, you know, and this was like.
Kubrick, you know, he loves Kubrick so much. Like in 1941, I watched it not too long ago. I think my brain's rotting, but I think Slim Pickens is in that as well.
Well, yeah,
and they're kind of like doing a similar kind of.
I could see like 1941 and then Strangelove, like there would be a lot of opportunities for like some Strangelove references.
Yeah, Peter Sellers' genius in Strangelove, and I like when somebody plays like multiple roles in a movie.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to pull it off. But
yeah,
there's a direct line from like Dr. Strangelove to Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yeah. I also love when like in a credit when somebody's playing multiple roles, it's like starring Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah,
like,
there's the clumps, and then there's the Tropic Thunder movie within a movie where it's like Jack Black's vehicle. Where it's called like the farts or the something.
It's like the farts fatty too or something.
Yeah, where Jack Black plays like all the roles in this.
I think it's like the Fart Family or something.
Okay, yeah. Even like in Lolita, Peter Sellers plays multiple roles, but he's playing multiple roles within the like where it's like he's the same character, but he's like the same character in disguise, like in a way that like the main character doesn't even like recognize him, like the two different ways he encounters him.
He's like kind of sad, but also like his like he can do like drama, but there's also like he's funny and there's like a little like sad quality about him too.
Right, and those things reinforce each other. Like the sadness makes the comedy work, and then the humor makes the drama work.
Clockwork Orange, still love a lot. Like
interesting companion piece to 2001. It's almost like Clockwork Orange is like what's going on back on Earth.
That's so
good. While all this stuff's happening in 2001.
Malcolm McDowell, like what a great performance.
And it's interesting, sort of like, because like for me, maybe you're the same. Like I knew like the mature Malcolm McDowell before this, like teenage Malcolm McDowell. Knew him from like the he was like the villain in like the Star Trek movie where like, Captain Kirk dies.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that might have been one of my first instances of Generations.
Yeah, Star Trek Generations.
Yeah, the serious Malcolm McDowell. It's like, well, he has a playful side.
Right. Yeah, and he talks it like he and this was like decades ago that he said this, so it's probably even more so now. But Malcolm McDowell like was talking about how like when he would like when he would see Clockwork Orange, like he couldn't even relate to that like boy who's playing that character because like he just felt like he was watching like his grandson or something, like that's me. Like it's like I mean I think just like the youth too, like just like there's you when you get a certain amount of remove from your own youth and like you don't even recognize yourself. And I guess like Clockwork Orange, that was like a movie that like I think like the Rolling Stones owned it for like, or Mick Jagger owned it for a little while. Mick Jagger wanted to play the Alex role in the Malcolm McDowell role in Clockwork Orange.
I remember Mick Jagger was in Free Jack with Emilio Estevez.
Right.
We can't get you into Clockwork Orange with Kubrick, but
good news. It's a good news, bad news situation. Clockwork Orange is like the like the satire aspect of it is like brutal. Like it's really going for the jugular. Like the sort of like the sort of like well-intentioned characters in the like for all the like psychopathology of the main of Alex and his droogs. Like it seems like it's a very like a very like cutting critique of like those sort of like the well-meaning characters and one of which being the author himself, like in the novel, like he's the character who Alex and his droogs attack like him and his wife, like that's the author Anthony Burgess. That's him. Like that's a self cameo in the book. I don't think Anthony Burgess plays the Anthony Burgess character in the movie, but in the novel, like that's very literally like him. So it's kind of like a self critique of, I guess, sort of like sort of like well-meaning political kind of like having these like high-minded intentions for like how to cure the ills of the world, but then like what happens when you're like confronted like face to face with it, and putting his own enlightened politics to the test, or in the crucible.
You also got in the movie there David Prowse, Darth Vader.
Yeah, David Prowse, great David Prowse role
there.
Stanley Kubrick, genius, flaming asshole, like massive asshole on a huge scale. Sociopath maybe.
Possible, yeah.
Just incredibly destructive personality. But left behind this like incredible body of work.
Ran roughshod over many.
Yeah, and it is like that is. I mean, so many directors. I think it's like Coppola who said like a director has to be a dictator. Like it's. I don't know.
There was like the Friedkin Connection book, or William Friedkin's like slapping people in there.
I feel like these, monomaniacal directors, like, they should probably maybe not work in a collaborative art form. Maybe like do writing or become a cartoonist, or rather so that you're not
a goldsmith.
A goldsmith, yeah. So you're not like inflicting your your character flaws on like large numbers of people, but just maybe restrict it to just the work. It's not just like the piece of paper or the keyboard or whatever.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to get into the most collaborative art form possible.
Right, so that I can like harm as many people, on the way to making, fulfilling these visions.
How many people can I hurt on the way to?
You do the modern equivalent is kind of like some of the abuses that you hear about happening in the gaming industry, like just the sort of exploitation of labor, and how like the coders and the designers, and just being sort of like run roughshod over.
Yeah, we got a deadline. It's like you better be working on right now.
Forget about your life.
Yeah. What a genius, and great body of work.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're left with. We're left with the body of work, like the man and his flaws are no more. It's the thing I always think about is the text that runs at the end of Barry Lyndon, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something along the lines of like, this story takes place during the reign of like whoever, and all the characters within it, at the most exalted character to the most lowly character, all are equal now. They're all under the ground, and it's basically like that. It's like, everybody in this story, for all the like, ups and downs that they had, they're all dead. And it's kind of like, meditate on that for a little bit, and it's kind of like that. Like Stanley Kubrick, we have this great body of work left behind, and the guy who created all the ups and downs and all the that's been like sort of erased from the planet. Like that just doesn't exist anymore. So what remains is this, and I think a lot of creators would kind of be happy with that idea, or they're laboring with that as their goal. That like, okay, this body of work is what's important, and however you have to get there is like doesn't matter. It's just like create this impeccable body of work, and let me be erased from the planet, and then just leave like the best of what I have to offer. Contemplate the infinite, and see like just yourself, like how small you are in the large scope of things.
Yeah, like you're right. Like in his flicks, a lot of moments without dialogue, so you can just kind of like you're left with like your own thoughts.
When in doubt, zoom out. Yeah, I mean there is a power in like leaving things unsaid. Like in Star Wars, when like Luke finds his aunt and uncle like burnt to a crisp, and it's like you could have had a scene where he like gets down on his knees, like no, you know why, or no, like in the prequels. But it's almost like you just kind of leave it unsaid and like let the audience sort of experience it.
There's a deleted scene from Star Wars where he sees him, he's like, oh god, they're so burnt, they're burnt, oh god,
Gross. Glowing Emperor. Making comics and stuff, you're always looking for like little tidbits of like wisdom and advice and stuff. And one of the things I read was that like, don't show, like if a character is crying or is upset, don't actually draw like tears. Like it's like so much more powerful to like have, you know, like it's almost like the tears become like maudlin and kind of cancel out exactly what you're trying to get at. But if you like show the character who's obviously crying or obviously like incredibly upset, but just like don't draw the tears, that can be really, really powerful. So that's kind of like the cartooning equivalent of like a soundless. That's Stanley Kubrick. You know, go check his stuff out. Hello, Mrs. Torrance. My name is Tony. I'm the little boy that lives inside of Danny's throat. If you try to like, if like the doctor or the dentist or whatever shines a light inside of Danny's mouth, he says that Tony like is hiding. He like goes back. You know, the Tony character, you know, just coming from like the Stephen King side, it kind of reminds me of, I forget the name of the story. There's the one Stephen King short story about like the little gremlin or whatever that lives inside his typewriter.
Yeah, I can't.
It's like and like Tony kind of like reminds me of like that little gremlin. You've been watching Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby: The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
I'm Matt Zeoli. You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show or on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I got this one. I'm an expert on movie quotes. There's a lot of bright things in that thing.
That black rectangle has a lot of little Christmas
lights in it.
It's full of stars.
I thought that when they talked about like in that it's like from Moon Watcher to the evolution of man to the Star Child, I was like, oh right, man's final form is Ace Frehley from Kiss.
Yeah, I think that it's full of stars. That doesn't. I don't think that figures in 2001. I think it's in the novel, and it's in 2010. But I don't think it's actually said in 2001. So that's like the ultimate misquote. To like misquote a line that's not even in the movie in any way, shape, or form. Egg on your face. Once again. We were talking about Barry Lyndon, and then I think you like accidentally booked Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch. Greg from the Brady Bunch.
Oh my god.
And like Barry Lyndon's like a fictional character, so like that's a pretty big blunder.